but I will be talking about the role of alien plant species. So a quick recap, pollination is important, we have already heard this today, and pollination levels have been declining for decades as a result of, for example, pesticide use and agricultural intensification. And these trends are expected to become worse due to climate change. For example, some pollinators might not find sufficient resources, or there might exist a mismatch in time or space between the plant and associated pollinator species. Some plant species might be more sensitive to climate change and might shift ranges, or pollinators might shift ranges faster than their associated plant species. So this means that in the future, many interactions will become lost. Fortunately, pollinator networks are rather dynamic and they can form novel interactions. I argue that many of these novel interactions will involve alien plant species. So, what are alien plant species? Alien plant species are species introduced deliberately or by accident through human activities beyond their native range, and they are likely better adapted to future climatic conditions. For example, these alien plant species can add additional resources, they can replace climate change sensitive natives, or they can act as hosts for range expanding pollinators. So this is exactly what I will study. What is the role of these non-invasive alien plant species and what is their contribution to pollination? We already know a little bit about the effect of alien plant species. For example, many alien plant species have been introduced as ornamental plants. They have very nice bushy flowers, so they attract a lot of pollinators. This might be bad for native plant species as they compete directly, but it can also be beneficial because they attract pollinators that afterwards also can visit native plant species, and they can actually act as a magnet towards to attract more pollinators. Alien plant species are also generalists in general, so they can increase network stability, although there are some problems regarding pollen transfer success and issues with conservation topics. Unfortunately, a research gap still exists because most research has been done on invasive plant species with a strong negative impact on biodiversity. But the majority of alien plant species actually does not become invasive and can thus actually be beneficial in the future. In addition, most networks have been done or are created on a small spatial and temporal scale, which is not good, especially if you consider climate change and spatial temporal mismatches that might exist in the future. So I will create a large-scale European network by using the size of citizen science data and the power of AI to create this network. So here a very short overview of what I will be talking about today. I use pollinator observations, specifically bee observations of both observation and naturalists between 1995 and 2025 across Europe. And after some data filtering, I ended up with about 2.2 million observations. Especially the observational phone database, it's subdivided between some observations for which the associated plant species is known, as observer has indicated it while making observations, while for the majority this is not the case. And how can we now create a network? Well, we have the observation of the pollinator on the plant species, so we can then use image recognition techniques to also identify the associated plant species. If we do this for many interactions, we can build a pollination network. Of course, there are some issues regarding image recognition. For example, this cat is identified as a dog. And something you should know about me, I'm afraid of dogs. So I should know whether it's a muffin or a dog. So you can create an image recognition technique to identify whether it's a dog or a muffin, and then validate this by your own ground truth data. Well, we can do something of the same with my data. We have the observation, and for some, the plant species has been indicated. So you can then compare this indication with the identity we receive from plants. And well, how does it, what does this give us? Well, we can see that for genus and family, the reliability is quite good. As you can see that even at low confidence confidence scores, the level of agreement is relatively high. For species level, it's a little bit worse. As for low confidence scores, the level of agreement between the species identity and the identification by plantlet differs a bit, but it increases rapidly. And at a score of 0.64, we reach 80% agreement, which is sufficient for our use case. And then I identified the species according to their origin class. I've not been able to do all data yet, so I will just show the preliminary results. I've defined them as either native, intra-European alien, so alien to the continent, but native to the continent, but alien to a specific region, and extra-European aliens, alien to the continent. Of course, citizen science data, it has some limitations. For example, we have server bias, we have the problems regarding the reliability of the identification. So one way to work around this is by using a binary network analysis, which means that we will not take the frequency of interactions, but just include the interaction as either being present or not. But then, yeah, this gives us the question, how many times should we observe the interaction to involve it in the binary network analysis? For that, I created this graph, and it shows that if we increase the minimum interaction threshold, or number of unique interactions decreases quite rapidly. It's a little bit of a trade-off between how much data we want to keep and how reliable we want our data to be. For now, I just used a minimum interaction threshold of 2, but of course, in the future, other options exist. Then I can look at the temporal subdivision of the data. The amount of data increases rapidly throughout the years. We can also plot it around Europe against, for example, here, the ecoregions. A second method to assess the reliability of our citizen science data is by creating accumulation and rarefaction curves to assess the sampling coverage. I did this here by using every observation as a sampling event, and then we can see that the coverage is quite good. However, if we subdivide all, or couple all observations within a grid cell and take this as a sampling event, we can see that especially for native species and for bee species, sampling coverage is not complete. So if we would sample more grid cells across Europe, we might actually get more interactions. Then lastly, short update on the role of these alien plant species. So as you can see, this is an overview of the network. Native species are still involved in the most interactions, followed by the extra-European aliens, and then lastly the intra-European aliens plant species. And then we can create a lot of interesting network species level metrics. What's most important is what they tell. And here's interesting that, for example, for the degree and the species strength, these indicate that native plant species are more generalist than alien plant species. While if you look at the node specialization index, it gives a different story, and this one tells us that extra-European alien plant species are more generalists than the other two classes. Then lastly, you can also look at the role these alien plant species play already in the networks, and we can see that alien and natives do not differ in their within module degree, so they are equally strong links to other species within their module, although their among module connectivity is lower than that of native species. So what does the future bring? I will use my cameras to experimentally validate my results in the fields. I still have some flyers left from yesterday, so if you want some flyers, come get them. And in addition, I also want to expand to more orders. I will do some more network metrics, and then finally create the whole data. Okay, thank you very much for listening. And I look forward to your questions.
Thank you for the presentation, Willem.
You need to be careful about the beginning usefulness of invasive plants, because here is really dangerous about that. What is necessary and now started the whole shift. For example, Bulea species is very attractive, and the native pollinators are prefer this before the native. So this is also necessary to compare. Is that firstly, if is it attract this species, and then how it's a combination of this native.
I agree with you if we talk about invasive species with a strong impact, but globally only 6% of all aliens become invasive, which means that we have many aliens with potential. Yes.
But for a few years, no one thinks that there are no problem. For example, in Czech Republic, people think that no problem. But then you look for France or for Belgium, that's a big problem. that is still, well, in the land, bosoms can not be used.
But these are basic species.
It's necessary to accumulate it,
Yeah.
such data, and then
I think we also need the data before we can make a strong assessment about all alien plant species. And that is a bit what I try to do here, to create a larger database that we can use instead of just thinking, oh, it's alien, so it should be bad by definition. This is not necessarily the case. Exactly.
Questions?
I'm curious, when you did this transcription, can you explain to me naturalist observation of the work? Sometimes they have like zone being on the target organism, which would be the insect. And then you have a picture of a visual picture. And or they're not there out. So you filter those out, or you standardize somehow like the the size of the flower relative to the image or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't look at the size, but yeah, for one, I wanted a higher confidence score for my for the reliability of the plant identification. If it was only the pollinator, then there would not be a high confidence score likely. In addition, PlantNet also gives which part of the plant it sees. So whether it's the flower, whether it's a leaf, whether it's a stem. So I also only included pictures with flowers. So this tries to limit that effect a bit.
So I was thinking maybe some of the flowers are so easy to base on the flowers that don't get in the picture of interest from the flower.
Yeah.
If that's all, we can wrap up our session. We had 6 lovely talks, and I thank you all for your efficiency and collaboration, and see you downstairs on lunch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I guess you probably won't. Thank you, chance to do it. So that's something I'm going to
I think I can give my time. Something that is next day. So that I get around. I think it's just. I'm sure it's not a bit.
I think it's really. I've been there once. It's just with somebody else.
Not tonight, not set. Like
It's twin sister. She just goes. I've been to K once. So no, that's like three ones. And I think we went through it. Read my badge. You were a I didn't know. Oh, yeah. Again, I think it's one of the most They're always a few other don't know anyone else. I've now got another coordinate on a short one. But we keep getting this